Welcome to Health Professionals Outside the Box podcast. In this series, I'll be talking to health professionals who've leveraged their professional skills to pursue alternative income sources, alternative careers, and entrepreneurship. We will gain insight into their motivations, experiences, and challenges, and learn how we too can carve our own path to finding purpose, fulfillment, and financial freedom. I'm your host, Fee. Thank you for listening. So welcome back to this episode of the podcast. Joining me today is Dr. Gladys Akinseye. She's an audiologist and co-founder and partner of a private clinic called the Hearing Hub Essex. Dr. Gladys Akinseye, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate you being here. So tell us about yourself and your professional background.
Okay, so as you said in the introduction, I am a clinical audiologist. I help manage a private clinic in central London. So that's sort of what I'd like to call my day job. I'm employed to help manage a clinic there, specialising in a condition called tinnitus, which I'll talk a little bit more about shortly. But as well as that, I, as you correctly said, I am co-founder and partner of a private clinic called the Hearing Hub that at the moment specialises in another sector of audiology, which is earwax removal. But as well as that, both roles involve assessing and managing individuals with hearing conditions, fitting hearing aids, and managing any other audiological issues that the patient may have.
So for those that are not aware of what an audiologist does, what is audiology?
It's a very small field, and it's almost a lot of people don't know what it is unless you need to use one. But audiology as a whole is the science of hearing. So audiologists assess and manage individuals that have hearing conditions. So it might be that they have a hearing loss. It might be that they have tinnitus, which is a condition whereby an individual will hear a noise inside their ears or their head that's not actually being presented by an external source. As well as that, audiologists also look at dizziness as well, dizziness arising from inner ear conditions, and they assess and manage people with balance problems. So that's audiology in a nutshell.
What motivated you to, start a private practice?
So I always knew from a young child, I always wanted to have my own private clinic. It was always an aspiration of mine. And I started my journey in audiology in 2009. And the general route of being an audiologist, as well as many other healthcare professions, is going through the NHS. And it was almost seen, or the private side was almost seen as a dark side, that no, you would not venture out to the private side. We would all stick to the NHS because that's where we were trained. Fantastic organisation, the NHS, and I had no qualms working there. However, I just knew it wasn't for me because I wanted to be able to give my patients everything. I wanted to be able to offer the whole lot and not be restricted. And that sort of inspired me. So I started off working for a private clinic and was amazed by how many things I could get my hands on, the opportunities that arose. There was no sort of, well, you're a junior audiologist, you can do that. You're a senior audiologist, you can do. But it was just, everybody get your hands in, let's do the best for that patient. And that was always my goal. And I just realised that I wanted to be able to offer that of my own and be able to do it the way I wanted to do it. And yeah, that inspired me to start. Just going back a little bit, I started my own private clinic where I was just working one day a week to complement my work. And then later on that expanded and co-founded the Hearing Hub.
Right. I think with most health professionals, I know with physiotherapists, certainly when they're looking to start private practice, it's the autonomy that attracts them to that. How long has your business been running?
So initially, the private clinic that I opened on my own, I was working one day a week. That started in 2018. And then I was approached by some investors to sort of expand on that. And that's when the sort of expansion and the rebranding occurred. And that's when the Hearing Hub was founded. And that was in early 2020. Yeah.
All right. How did they find you?
Very interesting. My first practice, I got to the stage where I was looking for some help. I was looking for another member of staff, and at the same time, they were looking to, well, start a practice, but they needed an audiologist on board. So they almost wanted to combine both practices, and that's kind of how it happened. So,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, I guess that answers my next question. I was just about to ask how you raised your starting capital.
Yeah, partly that, partly the investors, but a lot of the sort of initial workings when I was starting on my own was just from good old savings. I was working full time at the time, and I was only running the business 1 day a week. So I almost saw my day job as a way to fund my private work. And that's the sort of capital that that's what I used to get my equipment, to pay my rent. And then the other thing was I just made sure that I reinvested all of the profits back into the business. It's so easy to think, oh, I've made a bit of money, let me go shopping. But it's so important that at those beginning stages that you choose to reinvest back into the business, to keep it going, to keep it afloat, have some money there just for extenuating circumstances. You never know what might crop up. So it's important to use that. And I mean, they always say at the first year, you may not make anything at all, because you're busy sort of reinvesting it back into the business to keep the business afloat. And then when the investors came on board, that helped a little bit more to be able to expand the business. But a lot of the main reason it's working is because of that concept of reinvesting the profits back into the business.
Sure. What were some of the concerns or fears or worries that you had prior to starting out on your own?
The obvious fear, can I do it? Why me? My major fear, I would say, is my age. How would people perceive that? Whether it's because I look younger than I am, or whether they just assume that. Do you have enough experience to run a business? So for me, it was more, I knew I had it in me. But what would other people think? And would they be willing to trust my business and potentially buy into my business? Would people support me? And if they didn't, would that affect my own confidence? So those were some of the fears, the concerns that I had when starting up.
Well, you mentioned your age there as one of the concerns. Is it not common then to find people your age? I'm not sure what age range, you don't have to say what your age is. I'm not sure what age range you were at the time when you started, but is it not common to find people, at the age that you were at the time starting practices in audiology?
Definitely not. So you would expect people in their sort of early 40s, 50s starting businesses in audiology. It's very rare that you would find somebody younger. And of course, if you're looking at starting a business, you want to look at other businesses around you. And when you don't see people like you, it's very easy to feel like, wait, why am I even trying this? Absolutely, it's very intimidating. And yeah,
how did you get past that? How did you work?
I don't think I am quite past it. Yeah, I guess it's trying to build your own self-confidence and looking at the deep root, those concerns deeply, and think, well, wait, why am I having this fear? Wait, why is this fear? Why is this coming up? Why does it matter if you don't see somebody that looks like yourself or is a similar age as yourself? What does that actually mean? And yeah, I guess once I started, I thought I would start small. I would do 1 day a week, see how that goes. And then once you start to see that work, you almost think, right, okay, this is working. Those fears that I had have no bearings on how it's worked. So why not go all in? Why not expand this? And you just sort of alleviate those fears.
And how about family or colleagues? What did they think about, or friends? What did they think about your decision? How supportive were they?
I think all three are very different. All three are very different. I guess at first, family were cautious. Of course, you almost think, wait, hold on, make sure you just stick to the traditional. You're working, you're 9 to 5, you've got that security, and that's sort of how it started. But once they started to see things were working well with business and working as an employed audiologist, I think that doubt reduced. I think with friends, it's almost, sometimes businesses can be seen, it can be glorified, and they almost think, wow, you've got this, you've got that, but and they'll support that, but not really understand the work that goes into it, really. They may not necessarily understand the fears that you may have, and you may not want to share that with them. But yeah, I mean, I would say they were largely supportive. Colleagues, I had to tread carefully with, because I had a lot of resistance from the powers that be. So the bosses, and there was a lot of hurdles that they'd tried to put my way to try and stop me, because at the end of the day, my business is a competitor, or was a competitor with that job, and I guess they were cautious. They were cautious whether my mind would be split both ways, and they were cautious whether I would be committed, etc. But eventually I found that those limitations didn't stop my dream. I had to find a way to, overcome that. And I ended up making the difficult choice to leave after 4 years.
How did that feel?
I mean, it was difficult because, of course, with anything, when you're in a job for a long time, you get comfortable. Your colleagues become friends, and your patients, and you've built relationships with them. However, I feel that if you do have a dream and you do have a passion for something, nobody should get in the way of that. And yeah, it was the best decision that I've made. Absolutely the best decision that I've made. And the freedom of just not being held back by somebody or an organization. It just allows it just gives you pleasure.
I guess sometimes we're afraid to leave a place of comfort and security for the unknown. I think most of us fear taking that leap. So you've done a great job in doing it and sticking to it.
I mean, one thing I will say, because a lot of people do ask me about that, is you have to be clever with it, of course. I always knew that I needed that security with my current job, or with my life goals, outside of my career goals. I knew that I needed something stable, I needed something secure. So I didn't take the leap to leave completely, leave the employed role completely. I waited till I got another job that was more flexible and more acceptable of my dreams and more encouraging. And I moved to work part-time for that company.
Okay, so you work part-time for that company and alongside the practice as well.
Exactly.
And I've had a look at the company's website, and it indicates it states that you have a team of 9 professionals, including yourself. How have you built your team?
So together with my co-founders, we just advertised. We use job advertising sites, websites like Indeed. We used agencies as well to see if there were any audiologists looking for roles, looking for jobs. And also, like I mentioned at the beginning, audiology is quite a small world. So we word of mouth in the audiology profession allowed us to find staff.
And what sacrifices do you think you've had to make to run the clinic?
Well, I sacrificed my time. Yeah. That's a big one. So currently I work at least 6 days a week, is what I will say.
Goodness.
Which obviously becomes challenging and requires a lot of effort to maintain friendships, maintain relationships. It's not easy when you have to sacrifice your time. I mean, one thing I will say is it doesn't feel like a huge sacrifice when you're doing something that you love. So that's the first sign. If you're enjoying it, you enjoy. Yeah, you don't see it so much as a huge sacrifice. I sacrificed money, and that sounds a bit funny because you almost think if you have your own business, you have a lot of money. And initially, no, is what I will say. So I've spent thousands trying to invest in myself. And just investing in my education to just give me the best sort of chance to be able to run my own practice. So yeah, those are the two things I would say I've sacrificed. I mean, one thing I'll say that I refuse to sacrifice is my mental health. So that's my ultimate priority, and I'm still learning to say no. But it's crucial to know when to say it to just make sure that I'm okay throughout it.
Yeah, you mentioned you paid for some education. Did you take any courses on business, any business courses?
So no, not formally, no. A lot of the things that I've studied around business is, I've used resources online, I've read books, not so much taken formal courses, but in terms of audiology, I did a doctorate degree, I did a master's, and that all involved sort of, paying for, I guess.
Any mistakes you wish you could have avoided?
I'm sure there's many.
Yeah. Any one that stands out to you?
There's a couple. I mean, I would say that networking. I wish I built stronger connections with people in the industry. I think, like I said, it kind of ties into some of my fears and concerns because I didn't see people like myself, and I had those feelings of intimidation. I stopped myself from reaching out, and I think that I could have benefited by talking to other people before making certain decisions. And people are willing to help you, or even share their stories, which can help you. But my mistake was I was either too intimidated or too shy, or worried that their negative doubts would affect mine. So I stayed away for the most part. But one of the main things I will say to people is get out there, show your face, and let people know your name. Don't hide behind an email. People don't remember emails; they'll remember your face, and they'll remember you that way. Some of the other things that I wish I did better, better spreadsheets, and that sounds really silly, but I think you spend so long talking about your dream, or people say, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't know where to start." You can always start planning. You don't have to launch. You can always start planning. If you plan properly, you'll have a head start by start. If you fail to prepare to fail is what they say.
Writing it down makes it just having that visual cue.
Absolutely. And if you know that you need spreadsheets, start creating them. Just save them. You don't need to put anything in them. Just start getting them ready. Could be silly little things like just your sales. Just have a way, keep things organized. I wish I did that, and it would have made things a lot easier and saved me a lot of time and given my brain direction. I would say.
I follow some of the clinic's posts on social media pages, particularly the Instagram page. Do you publish your content yourself, or do you have a team that helps?
So I try to get people to help me, but for some reason it feels like nobody knows how to use Instagram. I don't believe that at all. I just think it's mainly myself. Sometimes I do get a bit of help with creating content from some staff.
Okay.
But yeah.
I've seen some really positive feedback from your clients as well on the social media pages. That must be rewarding. What do you think has contributed though to building and maintaining good relationships with your patients?
Yeah, it's probably the most rewarding part of it. I always say that a patient will remember your name if you've helped them. And their family members might even know your name, because you've helped them that much. So giving you an example, there'll be, one of my patients was telling me they're on the dinner table, she's not hearing very well, and then a grandchild's like, you need to see Gladys, and things like that. It's just so rewarding to know that you're an important figure in that person's life. But the things that I would say that contribute to sort of maintaining those relationships, one is honesty. It's so important, just to be honest about your limitations. If you feel that it's outside of your remit, be open and be honest, and say that this is maybe something I can't do right now. Be honest with them about the service that you can provide. Be honest about the price. There's so many things you just want to ensure that you're known as an honest person. Hard work. Making sure that you give your all. It doesn't go amiss. People appreciate hard workers. People know when somebody's maybe fobbing them off, or and it stays with them. So it's important to just make sure you're giving it your all. Going the extra mile, remembering that client's name, and even special events. So for example, sometimes I'll put in the patient's notes at the end, patient's daughter Kim is getting married next month. So when I see that patient again, I'll say, oh, how was Kim's wedding? And their eyes light up, because it's, wow, out of all the people you see, you've remembered that. But they don't know that you've made a note, but it's those little things that go such a long way. And
very personal.
Absolutely. It's trying to have that relationship with them. And yeah, that's
a really good idea.
How
And I think it encourages engagement as well with the intervention or treatment. You get more commitment from them as well.
Absolutely, especially if you're seeing repeated patients, you're seeing them again and again. You want to have that relationship, and you'll sometimes hear things that patients will say to you, "Well, I'm doing this because of you. I'm doing this because I like you. I'm doing this. I'm not going to let you down." Then you get good outcomes, they get good outcomes, and everyone wins. But if they feel like there's that barrier, then of course that can be a barrier to the success of their treatment.
As the saying goes, people remember how you made them feel. Now, you've mentioned that you are currently working with patients that suffer with tinnitus. Can you explain to us, for those that don't know, what tinnitus is?
So tinnitus is a condition where somebody hears a noise that they may hear in their ears, or they may hear it in their head. And it's not coming from an external source. So it's an internal sound that they're hearing. So most commonly, it could be like a ringing sound. And, a lot of people have experienced that feeling of leaving a very noisy place, like a concert or a nightclub, and they get this ringing that disappears. Well, some people get this sound in their ears constantly, or continuously or chronically, and may even feel that they suffer with this noise in their ears or their head. So I do I assess them. We do various tests to evaluate if there is an underlying condition that's causing it. And then we treat them. I give them management to try and cope with this condition.
Does it ever improve?
So what I will say, there is no cure for it currently, but there are, 95% of people that have tinnitus manage absolutely fine with it. Not to say, of course, a lot of people that have tinnitus probably wish that they didn't, but they're able to live a life successfully despite having the noise in their ears or their head. But initially, it can be devastating for a lot of people, and that's why they would seek treatment, seek help to try and cope with it. So there are things that we can do to try and help it improve. So, for example, if they have a hearing loss, hearing aids can be one of the best ways of managing it. Sometimes we give them something called sound therapy, which is like a wearable hearing aid that plays a sound in their ears constantly to just distract them from their tinnitus. And there's a huge psychological element to tinnitus as well. So I also perform things like cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, relaxation techniques as well. And also sleep counselling for people that find that their tinnitus is affecting their sleep.
I know CBT helps, but I wasn't aware that there's a range of treatments, as you saw, you've stated there. So it's really interesting to know that there are other options, that there's other things that can be done to support them.
Absolutely. I think a lot of patients, I think where we go wrong with managing patients that present with tinnitus is they may hear, well, there's nothing that can be done. You just have to live with it. And then that sets them on a path of anxiety, of isolation, feeling like they're alone. And that, as a result, makes it worse. So just by knowing that there is some hope, there are treatments that are out there that can help with it, can make a big difference. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, what's the vision for the business? How do you plan on scaling it?
Yeah, it's developed a lot quicker than I expected it to already. So at the moment, which is great, which is really, really good. At the moment, my only vision is that I hope to be able to develop the services within the business. So just being able to provide a world-class service with whatever I already do, if that makes sense. So just making sure that whatever services we provide, so in terms of hearing aids, tinnitus management, wax removal, that it's done properly. I don't like the idea of going too big too quickly, if that makes sense. And just enabling more cross referrals between different professionals, and having a stand within the community. It's such a good feeling knowing that GPs are referring into my clinic, other professionals, are referring into the clinic, and it shows you that you're doing something well. And for me, to be honest, I try not to dwell too much on the future. I like to just focus on the now, and ensure that each day we just give the best performance that we can to every patient that walks through our doors.
How was the clinic affected during the pandemic?
So we were just launching the Hearing Hub at that point. So we had to close from March to May until we were able to source PPE. And as soon as we were able to, once we were given the go-ahead by the government, it just went crazy in terms of the amount of people that walked through the door. So since then, we've been fine. I mean, there's been ups and there's been downs, of course, as you can expect with the different waves. People are worried. Majority of our patients are older, so within that vulnerable range. So I guess a lot of people have been feeling like, should I go out? Should I not? But with the mental health, the impact on mental health that the pandemic has caused, on top of not being able to hear, a lot of people have just said, you know what, it's a medical appointment. I'm going to get out, do the right thing, get it clear before this gets worse. And we've been okay. Touch wood, we've been okay.
That's good. And what has been your greatest achievement, would you say, to date, personally?
Achieving my doctorate degree. Not so much. Yeah, I mean, I've always been someone that likes studying. I enjoy studying, I would say. But to be able to work full time, and also fund my degree without failing to do that, but also complete it to achieving the highest grade that I could. It was. That was a big achievement, to complete that to a great
congratulations to that. What do you do to unwind?
Oh gosh, I love watching series on Netflix, Amazon Prime. I do a lot of that to just unwind. I watch a lot of trash TV a lot of the time just to get my mind
zone out a bit.
Thinking. Absolutely. I just need to not think.
That's true.
I do practice mindfulness as well. So I just try to do relaxation exercises, deep breathing exercises, which I have found have worked miracles for things like anxiety. That's pretty much it. But you'll find me in bed watching a good series on my day off.
I think that's what most people are doing nowadays, aren't they? So
yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us. Where can people connect with you?
No problem. You can connect with me on Instagram at the Hearing Hub Essex. drop us a DM. I'm manning it, as I mentioned before, so feel free to ask any questions if you want any advice. I'm more than happy to share some more insight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for taking your time, and appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, rate it, and review it on iTunes, as this can help others find it. If you'd like updates on the podcast, you can follow the pages on Instagram or Facebook by searching for Well Restorer. If you have any questions or would like to give some feedback, you can send an email to info@wellrestorer.co.uk. Thanks once again. Take care.